What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 307 podcast. We just got done with morning or half day out on the range today, training one of our former basic course students. I guess we've never mentioned that before. If you have ever graduated from the basic course or the proving grounds, we have a private range. It belongs to us. It's on our property, and we can actually fit more learning in a half day out on our private range when it comes to combat pistol and combat rifle. Those are two separate classes. We can fit more training into a 4-hour block than you're going to get most places in 2 days of training. We can really pack it in because we've got the equipment, we've got the freedom of movement, and we love doing it. So, yeah, we've never really mentioned that before. But just for any of you guys who have graduated from the basic course or the proving grounds and we have a relationship with you, if you're interested in getting some tactical firearms type training, hit us up at 307events@gmail.com. We take applicants to come out and train on the range on a case-by-case basis. It's fairly affordable, and it's a lot of fun, and we can really do a lot of awesome work out there. Just figured I'd mention that. That's what I've been doing all morning. This is the second episode of, I guess, the Mid-State Mile After Actions Report. It pays to be a winner. During this episode, we talk about the race from where we left off in episode 1. If you haven't listened to that part yet, go back and check it out. But we pick up with that exact same conversation and talk through the race all the way through to the very end. The race really didn't start until we got down to two people, me and Luke, and me and Luke battled it out for a long, long time. A lot of solid stuff in this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. This episode was brought to you, again, by our partners at Natural Rapport and Xoskin. Hey, guys, it's important to support the companies that support this podcast. Our sponsors and our Patreon members are the people who keep this podcast going. They're the people who fund this podcast and allow us to pour so much time and effort into it. So if you don't want to support us on Patreon, at least support the companies that support this show if you enjoy this show, which I hope you enjoy if you're listening to it, or else you're wasting your time. Natural Rapport is a company that makes uncomplicated pet essentials that are gentle, safe, and effective. They use ingredients that are as close to nature as possible. All their products are made in the USA at Natural Rapport. Their product line consists of plant-based grooming products, single-ingredient treats, all-natural chews, and a full line of no-bake soft chew supplements. If you love your pets like we love our pets, especially our dogs here at 307 Project, please give them the best stuff out there, which is Natural Rapport. This stuff is off the chain. It's awesome. The dogs love it. It's an awesome way to reward them. Their lives are a little shorter than ours. So, yeah, try to give them the best stuff you can give them. Go follow Natural Rapport on Instagram at Natural Rapport. Check them out online at nattyrap.com. That's NATTYRAP.com. Use the pro code 307project, all caps, for 10% off your purchase from Natural Rapport. We love this company. We love our dogs, and that's the reason that we've allowed them to sponsor this show and the reason that we're excited to share Natural Rapport with you guys. Check them out. Our other sponsor for today is Xoskin. As you guys know, at the Mid-State Mile, I spent all 38 hours in a pair of Xoskin socks, toe socks to be particular. They work awesome, all right? Xoskin's mission is to offer solutions that really work whenever, wherever, and whatever we do. Whether you cross-train, lift weights, run, climb, bike, hike, ultra run, serve and protect in the military, or as a police officer or first responder, Xoskin has got gear that's going to work for you. They have woven copper fiber into the fabric of all Xoskin garments that cut down on odor-causing bacteria. The fabric is made to channel moisture and sweat away from your skin, keeping you nice, dry, and chafe-free. Xoskin products are the best fitness apparel on the market. From the socks to the shorts to the shirts, all the way up to the top of your head, Xoskin has something that you can use for your next mission. All right? It's legit. It's 100% made in America. You get what you pay for. Xoskin gear lasts for year after year after year. I've got the same pair of Xoskin shorts that I got from them, I'm going to say about 3.5 years ago, and I still run in them. There's no telling how many thousands of miles I put in on those shorts. Same with the socks. They'll outlast a pair of Swiftwick or Smart Wool or whatever socks you're wearing. You get a pair of Xoskin socks, not only are they going to work better, but they're going to outlast whatever other brand you're wearing, I promise you. The stuff just works, guys. Period. I put it through the ringer. Go check them out on Instagram at Xoskin USA. Go order you some Xoskin at xoskin.us. That's www.xoskin.us. Use the pro code 3 of 7 when ordering Xoskin products. I'll attach that in the show notes of this episode, along with clickable links to both Xoskin and Natural Rapport, so you guys can go check them out. Thank you guys for sponsoring this episode. Thank you, everyone on Patreon that supports this podcast. We love you guys. We just really, really appreciate you. And, we had a great call on Resurrected last night. That was awesome. We do that 3 Sundays a month, private content, Bible-based content that we have over there on the Patreon platform. And, and last but not least, thank you to all you guys that have left us a review on iTunes. That helps the show grow. It helps the show populate. It helps new people find the show and get the same value that you're getting. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy this episode. Again, this is part 2, finishing up the after actions report at the Mid-State Mile with me, Blake, and Chili. Here it is. All right, we're back for part 2 of the Mid-State Mile recap. We're just looking over some old pictures of old Chili over here during the race. What did you do the whole time anyways, Chili?
What do you mean? I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, man.
I'll tell you what, son, you can run that Instagram, son.
I think he did. Ain't no telling how many laps he ran with Dwayne's camera.
Oh, he was out there a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how many miles he got in.
He got some top-notch media training.
Yeah, Dwayne and Ed taught me right. I'll just add that to my resume.
You're getting too expensive for us, Chili.
Oh, man.
Yeah, if you guys hadn't seen Chili has basically created an archive of the race on my Instagram page. There's hours and hours of footage covering down on everything that happened out there, and they're posted on these Instagram live videos on my page. So if you want to go back to see this stuff and be able to visualize the things we're talking about, you can find it on there. Plus much more, things that we're not even discussing, things that have been forgotten, conversations and questions and all that. It's all on there. So,
what was in them darn burritos, Chili?
Man, you know who I need? I need my boy Justin. His Instagram handle is Trail Trash Dirtbag.
Oh yeah.
I love him.
He's on Resurrected.
He is. I love him, man. And if it weren't for him, I would have just quit doing them live videos. I saw him on there commenting, and I said, Justin, if you could just start answering these questions that I've already answered 1,500 times, it can do me a huge favor, man. So then about every 3 minutes or so, he would just copy this same text, and he'd post. It said tailwind. It said Hoka Speed Goats. It said the lap counter, and it said peanut butter and banana burritos, and that's all it said. And I swear it helped.
That's epic, dude. What? And so was the audience kind of building throughout the race? Did you see it kind of build so new people were coming in?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think when we first started the lives, it was probably around 400, 500, and then it just slowly crept up to 600, 700, 800, and it would, ebb and flow, and then got up to, I saw 1,300 right at watching the finish.
Yeah.
It was just awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, man. Yeah, you crushed it on that, dude. And yeah, those peanut butter banana burritos I was eating with a little spot of honey on the top, they worked really good for a long time. But leading into this next portion of the race, which was we had the 8 a.m. intermission. That was our 24 hours. So this next 12-hour block, the heat started kicking on back in, brother. And those peanut butter banana burritos got a little heavy. Mm-hmm. And it was that tortilla. It was too heavy. So I actually stopped eating those pretty much. I mean, I might have took a bite or two throughout the day. But that worked for a long time. It's just like I told them boys out on the course. It's just like clockwork, son. Till it ain't. Boy, that got them right there, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. I don't know how many times you told people that. You're good till you're not.
That's right. That's right, son. Yep. So yeah, that intermission at 24 hours, we utilized it the same exact way we utilized the one at 12 hours. Lay down, feet up, and close your eyes and just focus on breathing and resting. I don't think I ever fell asleep there. I may have dozed off for a few minutes. It's hard to tell. There's a lot of noise going on around you. And it's just amazing to me when I lay down and do that. It's amazing to me to hear the few guys that are left at this time, to hear them up talking and eating and doing all this stuff. And I'm just sitting here thinking, you dummies, what are you doing? Why are you squandering this gift of rest? Mm-hmm. It's insane. I don't know.
Oh, I don't either.
So, the heat kicks up a few laps after that, and I think I remember coming into the crew camp there on one of the loops fairly early on and saying, all right, the name of the game today is going to be staying cool. And so that's when we switched to that big towel, and also I switched to my regular hat because I knew it would hold some moisture. That hat that I was running with early on, it was the whole top of it was vented, and I knew it wouldn't hold any moisture. So you guys started dunking that stuff in the cooler, having that ready right off the bat. So we never got behind the power curve on that heat. Mm-hmm. And I think, a lot of the other guys, they waited until they were overheated to start implementing these practices.
Yeah.
But as soon as you realize, oh my gosh, get on it, man. Don't wait until it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And then try to make up ground on it. That don't work.
Yeah.
Function check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting ahead of stuff. I mean, there's so many other things that are that way that if you wait till it's actually a problem, well, then you've waited too long. So you got to get ahead of everything.
Yeah, you do. You're not gonna. Once you get that stress that the heat puts on your body and your stomach and digestive system and everything, you're not gonna recover from that.
Yeah,
you can do things to hang on longer, but you're not gonna recover from it. So we got on that early. Gosh, man, I don't even know how many people were left going into that day, coming out of the night, going into the day. I guess it would have been me, Luke, Aaron Dayna,
and I think Mark was still in
and
it.
Mark.
Yeah.
That's right when Greg, who placed 5th, he was right in there too.
Did he make it into that? He made it into the he made it through the intermission.
Yeah.
Okay. In a few hours, I guess, into the morning.
I think 5 made it through the intermission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember, so we dropped down to 4 people. The sun, when the sun comes up for me, like, it's just like, it gives you automatic energy, and you have to, again, you can dial back your effort because all of a sudden you can see, and you don't have to use your headlamp.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I had this renewed energy, and I was just clicking, man. I was just clicking right on through it. Now, for me, this is where the patience part really started to come into play as we were working through that day. Because we've been going at this for a while, and the field has dwindled down to those, again, those really 3. Mark was there, but he was fading. And so I wasn't even really counting him. Not to take away from what he did. It was awesome what he did. He was the sleeper that nobody saw him coming, and there he was in the final 4. And but he was fading, so it was me, Aaron Dayna, and Luke. And I knew that if I just kept running my loop, that it was going to work. But at that point, there's only 3 of us out on the course, and you start to get that lonesomeness starts to creep in a little bit. Like, I want to kind of hang out with these guys and see where they're at and this and that. But that requires you to deviate from the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So there were multiple times through that day where I had to keep telling myself, just be patient. You have to be patient and just reel these guys in, man, and stay present, right? That's when I had to really start implementing those tools, which is really when the race pretty much started for me. So we got out of the process loops where we, again, separated the wheat from the chaff. That nighttime and the few hours in the morning heat did that. And we got down to the real competitors. And I actually started having to tap some of the tools that I know and utilize and that we teach. That was the first time I really had to do that,
Yeah.
every few laps. What was that day like for you guys?
Well, it's interesting to watch how, at the 97 people started, and, when you want to win, you're waiting on 96 people to be out of the race. And that's going to take a while. And then at this point, when there's just a handful left, you're only waiting on about 2 guys to be out of the race. But these are the hardest people to break. They're the people that are gonna stay in it the longest. So it's interesting. You finally get down to where, all right, now it's time to race, but that don't mean it's about to be over. You still it's still a long time. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the same thing for us. What we needed to do, just in supporting you, was not jump ahead and think that this was about to be over because there was just a handful of people left.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, even if you feel like it may be over pretty soon, don't start thinking that way, and don't plan for it to go 3 more days. I mean, if you do that, you'll be good.
Yeah, I think, just purely from my end of the perspective of being in the crew tent, when the sun came up and everyone started coming back in there, it was easier to roll back. Like, the night was kind of hard to stay focused, I guess, because like the energy had died down in there, and it required more energy on your part to do what you needed to do. But when everyone came out and the crowd was there again, then it kind of gives you that, and the sun comes up. Although I will say probably that first hour of daylight, it was probably more tiring in that first hour of daylight for some reason than it was even in the darkness, like right at dawn. And but once everybody got back out there, it just, you kind of get a whole nother boost of energy that keeps you up and helps you stay focused, really. I don't remember when did Mark go out?
I don't know. I think it was, man, it was not long after the sun came out. And then, Aaron Dayna, who got third, made it several hours past Mark, I think.
Yeah.
And, they just did a really good job too. And it was cool. I'm glad there was people there to, really make this thing go a long way. But I don't want to jump ahead here, but when it got down to Luke and Chad as the only two left, that wasn't that long after 24 hours. I mean, it really wasn't.
No, we battled out a lot. And I remember running some loops with Aaron and thinking, man, this guy's looking strong, dude. Like, it could potentially be me and him at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was looking just as strong as Luke looked. And, I'm wondering, because he was looking strong and then he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm wondering what took him out of the race. Let's see if we can get him on the podcast.
Carrier network error.
Oh, heck. Carrier network error. Let me make sure I type that in right. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Let me try it one more time.
Carrier network error. The OCN is missing. Please.
Dang, the OCN is missing. Well, I was going to try to get Aaron on the podcast here.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to work.
Well, yeah, one thing I'll say is the difference in him and Luke at about 24 hours was I thought Aaron was doing a much better job of sticking to his plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Luke, I mean, these are just observations. I'm not putting anybody down. I mean, obviously you see the job that Luke did, but he was just kind of all over the place. His lap times were erratic. And I mean, I don't know. Whether it was just he didn't have a real ironed out plan or he just wanted to kind of do what he was doing, I don't know. But I thought Aaron was sticking to a plan really well. And I think that's why he was able to go as far as he was. He did a great job of sticking to that. And he was coming in around 17, 18 minutes, something like that. I mean, I thought it was.
He was always just about 30 seconds ahead of Chad,
Mm-hmm.
usually.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Luke's sporadic fast laps and stuff was a way for him to feed his impatience, because it's like you could get a little bit of a bite of relief from that impatience if you were to just blister the lap and you're like, all right, now I'm just going to hang out here.
Mm-hmm.
But to be patient out there running takes a little more than to be patient sitting in your chair for the next one to start,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's what it was or not, but he would do that occasionally. He would just come in and have like 5 or 6 minutes to sit there.
Yep.
Yeah. And, once again, I don't want to jump ahead of anything, but in part one of this recap, you asked Becca and John, help me out. What exactly did you ask them? What was the pivotal moment?
The defining moment.
The defining moment. I'll tell you what it was for me because it was right in this time. When Aaron went out, the first loop after that, Chad and Luke head out at about the same pace. They're running pretty much side by side, and I think this was a loop that I was carrying one of the cameras for Dwayne.
Hold on, we got Aaron coming on.
Okay, good deal.
You can finish up that story, Chili. Aaron, can you hear us? Hold on just a second, man. 1 second. All right, try it now, Aaron. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now, Aaron. You're live on the 3 of 7 podcast, brother. What's going on?
Awesome. Just driving back to New York with my feet up, and I got some salty britches on my sore spots, and just chilling.
Well, brother, we appreciate you joining us real quick. I know this is a last minute kind of phone call here, but we kind of wanted it to be that way. And we're kind of just recapping the whole. And Chili, stay where you're at with that story.
Yeah, we'll get to it later.
Of that. Yeah. We got Chili here, Blake here, and we're recapping the race, and we've kind of come up to the point where it was just me, you, and Luke. And, I remember telling you on one of those loops, because we just said, I said, Aaron was looking really strong. He was looking just as strong as Luke was looking. And we were talking about how consistent and patient you were being. Luke wasn't being patient, and he was being pretty erratic. And I remember one time telling you, Aaron, we gotta get this dude out of our hair, and then me and you will go to war against each other to finish this thing off. And you were looking so strong, man. And I just want to know, I want you to walk me through what was going on in your head then, and then go on to tell us kind of what took you out, because you were looking so strong, and then the next thing I knew, you were gone. So walk us through that, brother. And thank you for joining us, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Obviously there's a lot that happened before that moment. I remember that moment, and that was probably the hardest lap that I had. I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of experience going that long in my body. The heat that day was really wearing on me. I was just getting very, very fatigued. All the fatigue was just setting in. And on that loop you were talking about, we were both very quiet. We were both close to each other. And I was battling in my mind all the thoughts that I feel like it was coming to me. And then you said that, and you said, we got to shake this guy so you and I can go to battle. And I think I dropped on the next loop. So I don't know, man. I think I just had this sense that I did what I needed to do there. I have a lot of respect, Chad, for you and how far you're willing to push your body. And I felt like my body was telling me, like, this is good. So on that next hike, you guys, we all started climbing up that hill where I felt strong all day, and my legs were not there on that climb. When Chili was there, he was filming us going up. My legs were I didn't have the drive that I had for the 28 hours previous. And you guys got to that top of the hill, and I just took it easy. I just kind of backed off the intensity, and I just kind of hiked it back. So I don't know, man. I looked around. I took in everything, because so much of that race, I'm looking at the ground, right? So I just looked up. I looked around. I thank God for that whole day. But then, man, on that last climb on Machete, Becca gets me halfway up. She's like, "Come on, you can still do it." I'm like, "No, Becca, I'm done." She's like, "Well, if you're done, you better not end like this." She's like, "You better give this climb all you got." So she got right next to me. I was like, "Becca, I love you and I hate you, but I love you." And she climbed that hill with me, and then she's like, "Now you got to send it down this hill." So I'm like, "All right." I start jogging. She's like, "Brother, give it all you got." And I keep looking at my watch. Like, stop looking at your watch. Tuck your poles back and send it. And I just hammered it. I just hammered it down that hill. I gave it everything I got. I think I came up a minute short. But yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell.
Well, I remember you telling me, Aaron, I think it was shortly after we came out of the 24-hour intermission. I distinctly remember you saying, "I haven't got what I wanted out of this yet."
Yeah.
And what was it? There was something obviously that you wanted distinctly out of this mission. And what was it? And did you find it?
Yeah, there was. I didn't want to quit because my mind was weak or gave in to all those doubts and insecurities and all that kind of stuff. I wanted my body to let me know when I hit my limit. And honestly, Chad, like, I could have kept going. I probably could have got a couple more loops in the time. And then I think I would have just started slowing down because that heat was taking its toll on me. I would come in and stick my head in a bucket of ice for 2 minutes. And I was breathing as hard as if I was climbing up that hill. So I think I got everything. What I wanted out of it was I wanted to push my body as far as it would take me. And I wanted, at that point, I wanted to help Mark go as far as he could. And Mark was still in it. I mean, I know you started talking about when it was just 3 of us, but Mark Holcomb and I battled that whole night together. We were side by side trying to bring each other as far as we could. So at that 24-hour mark, I think it might have been 5 of us, maybe even 6, but Greg Armstrong was still in it, looking good. Mark was looking good. So at that point, my goal was I want to at least get top 3 because maybe it's a limiting belief, but I didn't believe that I could beat Luke, and I didn't believe I could beat you, Chad. And that's something that is kind of eating at me because I shouldn't have let that thought dictate. But at that point, I was like, I wanted to be top 3, and I had to outlast Greg, and I had to outlast Mark, who are very, very, very strong men. So once they dropped, I felt a relief. Mm-hmm. And then I just took some. I felt like, Chad, we had a really good lap together. That was like a victory lap for me. I got one-on-one time with you, and I got to say some things to you that I wanted to say for a long time. So, man, at that point, everything after that was gravy.
Well, I want to let you know that, you said you didn't think that you could beat me. And there was a moment when I saw you running, later on into that day when you were looking strong. And there was a moment that crossed my mind that this guy could beat me. And that's the main reason that I was being so quiet. And I wanted to, because you're my brother, and I wanted to encourage you so badly. Like, I wanted to lift you up. But there was still a nagging thing in my mind that said, this guy could beat me. I am racing this man because he looks so strong. So I want you to know that's what's going through my head, man.
Well, it's funny you say that because I had this thought. I'm like, and I know who you are. I didn't really want to show you weakness, but I had this thought. I'm like, you should tell Chad you're struggling right now and see what he would do. And I regret not doing that. I wanted to be like, brother, I'm really struggling right now. I need you. And I didn't. And I wish I would have, because I don't know how much farther I would have gone, but I regret not doing that because I know you would have lifted me up, and I know you would have pushed me further. So that's what was going through my head. I'm like, I should say something. I should be honest with him, but we are so quiet on that on that stretch.
I'll tell you what, Aaron, you maintained the standard, brother. You really maintained and executed and lived to the standard. You never uttered a single word of complaint. It was just absolutely amazing to see what you did out there, man. And I am just so dang proud of you, brother. And, talk me through just kind of what it felt like when it was finally over. I mean, how I know there's a video on Instagram, but you know, just the inner workings of your mind when you finally said, all right, you know, and you come in off that loop and you're a minute late and you know it's over.
Yeah. I mean, overwhelming sense of gratitude. I mean, I gained so many family members, and my family, who was all there, gained family members. So just gratitude, man. I mean, I came in totally open to everything that the Mid-State Mile could offer. And in my faith, I knew God was going to meet me there and meet us there and do something special. So I wanted to suck every ounce of benefit out of that race. So I was just full of gratitude because I gained so much more than I ever expected. Kind of like the basic course. I went in open to everything that could happen to me and be presented to me. And I just received everything I could. So, dude, I was just grateful. And I mean, and honestly, I had no idea what to expect from my body because that was the hardest challenge of my life. So I was also just very surprised and at what my body and my mind was able to accomplish. I set a goal. I wanted to win it. My second goal was top 3, and my third goal was top 5. In seeing the people that were in that race at the beginning, I thought, no way I'm going to get top 3. I mean, no way. I mean, when Greg Armstrong showed up and he said, I figure I'll run a few laps, I'm like, oh, geez, here it goes. But
Me too.
I kept it simple. I just one stinking loop at a time. That's all you had to do. One loop at a time. And be present in that loop and not get overwhelmed. Because, man, that clock just ticks by, man. It goes slow, but it goes fast. So, yeah, man, when I finished, it was just overwhelming sense of gratitude for all of the people, all the volunteers, all the encouragement I received. And my dad was there, and he hugged me. I mean, it was Father's Day. I mean, life doesn't get any sweeter than that.
That's the truth, brother. And last question I got for you, Aaron, is I know you talked about you had to work through some low spots and stuff like that. And so, what if you could define for us kind of what's your number one challenge that faced you out there, and how you pulled through it, man?
The number one challenge was believing that I belong there. I mean, through that night, it was dark, it was quiet, and everyone that was a top competitor was strong. Greg was strong all night. Luke was strong all night. Chad, you were strong. Mark was strong. I mean, Isaac was strong. There were so many dudes out there. Tim was strong for so long. And I'm like, do I have what it takes? And it was just letting those doubts were just creeping in. And it wasn't until you talk a lot about the power of the spoken word. And I just started speaking life. I started preaching to myself, preaching to Mark, and just reminding us of who is with us, the greater one that lives inside of us. And faith rose up in me, brother, and hope, and all of those thoughts just kind of faded away. And I honestly never really had to deal with that again. So it was an amazing experience to see God work through His word being spoken out loud to change my feelings, to change my thoughts, and give me a power and a motivation to keep persevering that would not have happened if I just kept my mouth silent.
I'll tell you what, that's powerful, brother. That is a really powerful thing, and being faced with that, being faced with that question, or being faced with that, I guess, challenging emotion that, man, do I really belong here? That is a hard thing to overcome. What were you going to say, Chili?
Let me tell you, Aaron, you do. And whatever you do going forward, don't doubt it again.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, I got loads of confidence. Chad, I mean, I'm not going to start smack talking yet because we're still enjoying what just happened. But I am hungry, brother. I have never been more hungry or more confident of what I have to do to take you down next year. And I'm going to put it in the work. And I'm going to do everything I can to push you as far as you want to go next year. That's my commitment to you.
Well, brother, I sure do. Thank you for that. And I know you will. And you are a true contender in this arena of ultra running, and especially when it boils down to pure grit, which is the Mid-State Mile. It does at the end boil down to grit. And you are a contender. You have proven that. You have just earned a tremendous amount of respect on my behalf. And, man, I just love you. I appreciate you taking the time to come on and share about your experience. And it was an honor, really an honor to see you push out there. And I can't thank you enough, brother. I hope you guys have a safe trip home. Anything else you want to say, man, here on the podcast? The floor is yours.
Thank you for those words, and they mean a lot to me. All of you guys, Blake, Chad, Chili, you guys and your example and what you do matters to me. Like what you saw out there was a fruit of what you put into me. All these principles that you preached, that was just all of those principles put into action. So for all of you out there listening, I was blown away by the power of this 3 of 7 community. Brothers and sisters that I only knew through Instagram, now met face to face. Man, you guys are the real deal. And what God is doing among us, we're just barely scratching the surface of what He wants to do through all of us to glorify Him, to strengthen each other, to encourage each other. Thank you so much, guys, for what you're doing to facilitate this community being built. It's a family, and God is working among us. So I'm honored to be a part of it. I was honored to share the ground with you guys at the Mid-State Mile, and I'm just excited for what's to come.
Amen to that, brother. And yeah, you're a huge part of the Body of 3 of 7 project, and have been for a long time. A huge part and a huge contributor. And for people to see you executing on these universal and biblical principles and putting them into work and just crushing the limits, it builds everybody up, man. So thank you so much, brother. Blake, Noah, y'all got anything?
No, it was awesome to be out there with you, Aaron. You did a great job.
Yeah, man. I'm proud of you, consistency, and like Chad said, the execution on all the standards that work. It was just awesome to see you actually implement them and go as far as you could.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Y'all have a safe drive, Aaron. We'll talk soon, brother.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Love you,
Love
man.
you guys. Bye.
All right. Well, that was Aaron Dayna, number 3 at the Mid-State Mile. And so we just heard about Aaron's journey, and when he went out, that was interesting for me to hear. Like I said, he looked strong. I told him we got to get Luke out of here so that we can go to battle. And then he was gone, and we heard about how that played out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just down to me and Luke. And I'll give my perspective on Luke, and then hopefully we'll have him on the podcast one day. But
You think it'd be a long one?
oh, it'd be a long one, son. I'll never forget. You know how Greg doesn't ever say much, right? And so Luke, I think Luke talks in order to stay out of his own head. I think that's why he talks so much out there, is because when you're carrying on this conversation, you're not thinking about, what you're enduring. And so he literally talked the entire race. And I remember saying, Luke, go up there and talk to Greg. Go up there and talk to him. And I yelled at Greg. I said, here he comes, Greg. And I told everybody around me, I said, watch this. Greg's going to DNF because Luke's going to talk him to death. So hopefully we'll have Luke on the podcast one day to share his perspective on the race. I'll say this right off the bat. The dude is freaking tough. And I had a conversation with Greg on one of the laps when Greg was kind of fading, and I ended up running with him for a little bit of a loop. And at this point, I wasn't jiving with Luke very well. He just want my type of people. You know what I mean? Because I just want to be left alone to do my thing. You know what I mean? And I'm friendly, but like, I don't like to be talked at much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to like get away from this dude because I'm like, man, just let me run. And this story of this conflict of personality continues to evolve as we go through this story. But I told Greg, I said, I'm going to run this joker into the ground. And Greg looked over at me and he said, well, good luck. He's tough. And he said, I think your only chance or somebody's only chance at beating him is going to be to take him into some significant sleep deprivation. Because here's the thing with a fast runner is used to finishing a race fairly early. Say 100 miles, they're used to getting that done in 20 hours or less. And so they are not efficient, or maybe they don't even know. I think Luke had said he had not been up more than 25 hours or something like that. That was the longest he had been awake running. And so Greg told me, and Greg's smart. He said, you're gonna have to just stay with him long until that sleep deprivation kicks in. And I think that's the only thing that's gonna take him out. What do you think, Chili?
That's interesting that's what Greg thought, because I didn't think that personally. And honestly, at the end, I don't think that's what took him out. I mean,
he was woozy. He told me on the course late when we got late into the day, he had multiple things compiling.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that sleep deprived state that he wasn't used to, he started hammering that Coca-Cola because he wanted caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you've been up for 30 hours, you get a little weird. You get a little off balance. You start seeing things out of your peripheral vision that aren't there. Things moving.
Yeah.
Shapes turn into animals. And he told me, he said, I'm woozy. And what happens when you get sleep deprived and you get a little woozy is you start trying to compensate for that by drinking Cokes, and you're not eating the right things. You're eating all this processed sugar. You start to kind of relax on doing the right thing.
Oh yeah.
So I think it played a big part into it.
oh yeah.
Because all that starts to compound on itself. So you start to get a little tired. So you say, well, I haven't drank any Coke for this whole time, but now I need to start drinking. Well, then you drink that and you start eating a little junk food. Then your stomach starts messing up a little bit, and then you got the heat on top of that. And it was a pile of stuff that just started snowballing.
That's for sure. I mean, it definitely played a role. It was just because one thing that would indicate that played more of a role than anything else actually is the fact that his form never changed. His gait was good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously at the very end, but I mean, he looked good even when he was fading. It was interesting. Like usually when people start getting slower, they look like crap. He looked pretty good, running pretty well, and he was slowing down. So that would be
The first time I saw his form change,
was
on the big climb, the first big climb. Luke climbs on his toes, which is fast, short, choppy steps on his toes, right? I don't do that. I'm flat-footed, take big, long steps, engage my glute to pull myself up the hill. He had climbed on his toes the whole time. Well, late, I started to see him all of a sudden not be able to climb on his toes. So his heel would touch, when he would take a step, his heel would touch the ground. And I saw that and I thought, yep, them old calves, nah.
Yeah.
They can only last so long.
Yeah.
So that was the first change I saw in his gait. Now on the flats and downhills, he was still good to go. But on those climbs, I saw that change in his step.
Yeah.
And I knew that those climbing muscles were starting to wane on him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it got down to me and him, and we're running, and of course, Luke is just hanging with me like a tick. I mean, just talking away, asking me all these questions, telling me all these stories, which is wonderful. I don't want y'all to think I'm talking bad about him. I'm just saying this is just a difference in personality, right? And finally, I think that we came to the agreement respectfully that we are racing and he needs to go and run his race and he needs to let me run my race instead of just us trying to do this thing together. And he honored that. And he finally made the decision to do that and go and run his own race. And that was the last lap that we ran together. After that, he was ahead of me until he wasn't.
That's right.
And so as it progresses, I remember asking Chili in crew camp, I said, Chili, give me a little ammo here. How can we get, what do you think? How can we get in this dude's head? I think one thing that was getting in his head is he had to be alone, right? Yeah. He didn't have anybody to talk to. I think that was already working. And then Chili told me, what did you tell me, Chili?
Well, I noticed he hadn't, I don't know exactly when this was, but it was, at a point where Luke had literally not seen the back of you one time. Not once in his life had he seen that hair flapping in the wind, and seen the back side of you. He hadn't seen the back of your feet. He hasn't, So I just thought it'll be interesting to just give him a view of that. Just let him see it. I'm not saying you got to go run a lap in 14 minutes. I think that's a bad idea. But just find a way to let him see it. And I don't know. I think it may have done something.
Yeah, I think it might have too. And yet after Chili told me that, every time we would start a loop, I would come off the line in front of him. And it required me to it required me to make a minor deviation to the plan. There's a nice flat section right there off the top. So it's not a huge expenditure of energy, but it did take a little more. And so that's when my time, you talked about how my time on my loops dropped down. It was because of that. Because I would come off that line faster than I knew I should be running just so he would have to see me and say, I just wanted him to think, dang, man, this guy's still running good.
Yep.
I wanted him to see my gait, that I could still run.
Yeah.
All right. And he'd have to look at my back end, and then we'd go up the first climb. We would kind of even out. He would come on up to me. We'd kind of even out. By the top of the climb, he would be passing me, and I would intentionally allow him to pass me because he was stronger on that downhill than I was. And so I didn't want him to see me running that downhill because he was stronger than me on that. So I would always make sure he was in front of me once we started on that downhill, just so he wouldn't see me. And I did that until I could pull far enough ahead of him to where when we got to the top of that climb and I went on my downhill, he could no longer see me on the downhill, right? When I got that far ahead of him. And yeah, man, there was a moment in crew camp when Luke's crew, I listened to them. They started talking about busting out the ibuprofen, and they busted out the med kit, and talking about all these tactics and that are just gonna maybe prolong him, to a certain point, but not bring him back from the dead. And I called it out in the crew camp. I said, "Oh, look at there, old Luke, and them, they're busting out the med kit, man." I called that stuff out, man. That's all part of it.
Yeah.
And when he started to really wane, I could hear him coming off the line. I could hear him behind me. That joker got to farting and gagging and burping, and I knew this joker's experiencing some stomach distress because he's eating all this junk food, and Coke and processed sugar. And I was like, "Yep, I know what that feels like." And so there was a time, the one loop that I ran where I came in with 3 minutes to spare, that was a tactical move. And I think when I crossed the finish line, everybody was like, "What the heck, man?" And I was like, "Yep, I'm a tactician. Tactics, techniques, procedures, execute. And that was simply me showing that, hey, man, I'm stronger now than I've been all day.
Yeah.
And right in the face of his weakness. And I don't know what it did to him, but it obviously worked.
Yeah.
And that was the fastest loop I ran on the whole course.
Yep. And that was close to the end, wasn't it?
Fairly close. That was late afternoon, I would say.
Yeah.
Late afternoon or evening. And then after that, he started to really fold up. And I'm looking at my watch, and I'm saying, "Daggone it, man. It's like 7:00. I'm like, "Man, we got a 20-minute long intermission at 8:00. If this dude can make it through 3 more laps, he gets a 20-minute break." And so, I'm like, "Man, I hope I can get this dude out of here before 8:00. And that don't happen. He hangs in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He hangs in there till 8:00, which puts us at 36 hours of running. The third intermission, we come in. I lay down, same as every other intermission, to get some rest. I don't sleep a wink. But I'm listening to them over there in his crew, and they're like, "Hey, man, do you want to lay down and get a little rest?" And he refused to do it.
Yeah.
I can't comprehend it. We get back up from that intermission, and he immediately starts complaining about how tight his legs are. So if you'll notice, when I laid down, I put the cold towel over my head. Now, it was hot outside.
Yeah.
but I went ahead and took a blanket and laid that blanket over my legs, even though it was hot. I did that to keep my legs warm. I didn't want my legs to cool down. It was hot being under that blanket, but I knew I had to do that. So when I got back up, my legs were not stiff. They were actually fresher. I felt refreshed when I got back up from that. And I think he stiffened up pretty good on that.
Yeah.
On that intermission.
Well, I noticed you were, my opinion would be you were probably stiffer getting up from that than the other intermissions. But I looked over at Blake and was like, oh, that's good how he just got up. He's not, because that's just how I am. I get stove up from doing that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's good. It's still, you went to the bathroom.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah, that looks good. That walk over there. So, I was happy to see that. I think every intermission you came out of, great.
Yeah. Yeah. I expected to be a little stiffer than I was. And my legs did stiffen up a little bit, but of course, when I got up and went to the bathroom, I purposefully did it as gracefully as I possibly can.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody was watching.
Yeah.
So
I think if I learned anything from Luke or any reassurance, he's a great runner, right? But the more you talk, the more you're going to say things that you shouldn't say. And if you just got to keep talking, you're about, you can't just come up with some off the wall stuff to say. You got to say some whatever's in your mind and your heart. You're going to start saying it. And he started to say, hey man, my armor's breaking down right here. If you'll take a shot right here in this vest, I bet you can get me. And then over here, I'm starting to, and I noticed when I got real tired, I don't like to talk that much, but when I got tired, I kind of got a little bit talkative. And I don't know why, but I did.
You got a little crazy there in the night.
Yeah, and I was like, but I told everybody in the camp, I said, look, if it don't need to be said, we just don't need to say it. The guys that were helping Luke there, they were just there, he didn't bring them with him. But I didn't want to give anything up because we was just over there talking and then them hear something that we say and potentially give some other information. But, it applies in a bunch of different ways. But to me, if something don't need to be said, if there's not a reason you're saying it, I just don't like to keep spewing it because especially in a competition like that, because you're bound to spew out something and then you can't take it back. You're like, son of a gun.
Another thing people notice when you've talked a lot at the beginning is when you stop talking.
Yeah, that's true.
He got real quiet there at the end.
That's
a good point.
And
I knew I was looking for that.
Any significant change is going to be picked up by people, or it ought to be picked up by legitimate competitors. And
yeah,
so that's one tactic to use as well, is whatever you do at the beginning, you need to think about what you're going to be doing when it's late.
Yeah.
And when you're tired and when stuff's going wrong, because if you go ahead and operate in a fashion similar to that, they won't know any different.
The poker face, ain't it?
Yeah.
That's a really great point to bring up, Shelly, because I thought about that exact same thing when we started leading him off the line, when we were leading him off on every lap. I thought, well, now I have to do this every single time.
Yeah.
I better do this every single time, because as soon as I don't do it, everybody there is going to notice it. So that was a risk we took by deciding to make that part of our plan.
Well, after you did it, he got slower coming off the line every time. One time I distinctly remember a lap, they blew the whistle to start the lap, and you took off exactly like you did, and he stood there for a second after the whistle.
Yeah.
And then he went on, and I was like, oh, he's done. I don't know why he did it. I don't know what he was thinking. It honestly may not have even been intentional, but it meant something. It basically was just like a sign of honestly, when he did that, it was so fast. It was a split second. I thought he might have lined up and then let you go and not even started that loop. But then he ended up going. But then that was real near the end, you know, and I don't know. That told me right there that you were going to go off the line first every time, no matter what. So,
Yeah.
But it was a risk. You're right.
Yeah. That's a good point to bring up.
Now, at the time that I knew, or at least I was 98% sure that this dude couldn't beat me. So we're talking about now. We've already went through the day. We're going now. It's dark again. We're going well into this night, this second night. The main battle for me there was staying present and not going ahead and saying, oh, we got this cat in the bag. Let me go ahead and start thinking about my victory speech. Oh, like, I can't tell you how bad I wanted to do that. And how hard it was not to keep looking behind me just to see where he was at. Because I knew on these splits, I knew if he didn't hit certain points at certain times, that would be his last lap.
Yeah.
And so the anticipation of his last lap, that was really hard not to get sucked into that and to stay in the mindset of, no, man, you got to keep running this same freaking loop. The reason you do that is because you never know.
Mm-hmm.
This dude could have ate some of Becca's world-famous mashed potatoes or something. He could have potentially done something to turn himself around.
And you want to know the best fuel you could have given him in that moment is looking back.
Yep.
If he knew, you might could have done it without him knowing, but if you look back, that lets you know, he's still a little concerned about me.
Yep.
You can draw big time from that. If he knew you were still concerned about him, that's new life right there.
Mm-hmm. That's it. So I'll tell you what I started doing is when we would go off the line, once I got a little out ahead of him, I would turn my headlamp down to the dimmest setting possible to where I could just barely see the ground in front of me. And I always made sure that headlamp was pointed straight at the ground because I did not want him to be able to analyze how close he was to me. So I didn't want him to be able to see where I was at any point. I wanted him to really feel that sense of, dang, I'm out here all by myself. And there's another tactic. I know, I give you guys all my freaking secrets, man.
Well, I mean, there's no one out there that can beat you. You got to give a little info so they can maybe try to use them or something.
So these are these little things that I think about doing and that I do that I think not many other people do. And maybe they don't make a difference at all.
Oh, no.
But I have to believe they do.
Well,
even if it's just a minor difference.
Not one of them together really makes a huge difference, but all of them collectively is what really makes the difference, doing it all throughout the whole race. I mean, if someone just did that over one night thing, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I couldn't really tell where you was at, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
But all the little things start playing in, and then they say, well, dang, I can't see where he's at. He started out in front of me. He's still got a lot of energy when he comes in. He got up from his rest, and he was fine. And then all that stuff, and they think,
Sure ain't, son. All right, let's take one last break, and then we'll wrap this thing up all the way through to the finish. We're back with you. This is an endurance event in and of itself. Trying to recap 38 hours of running into even prior to that, everything, the whole journey into a few hours of podcasting.
I got a little deficient on my calories and had to go in
Don't get behind.
My crew was in there watching Barney or something and having some crackers set out for me.
endurance episode right here. You know, I remember Chili saying before the race, he said, "Dang, I'll be glad when we get this behind us."
Well, yeah, I remember when I said that, and I was like, you know what? He probably took that as like, I'm not excited for this, or don't want to do it, or whatever. But it wasn't that at all. I think it was because I was so excited that I started feeling that way. It was like the lead up to this was just good night. Every day you hear about it, and people so excited they're about to piss their pants. They want to be there. It was like, I'm ready to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm ready to quit talking about it. I'm ready to just do it. So it's happened now.
Dude, it seemed like it took forever for the day to come.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, it just seemed like it took so long, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, we're at the end. We're at the end of the race. What I mean, obviously, I'm pulling out in front of this dude, and I knew on his last lap, I came up to the field on the second climb at the top of the hill, right on time, 15. All right. I looked out of my peripheral. I didn't see any headlamp.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he wasn't going to get it. If you don't hit that field by 15 and a half, 16, that late in the game, if you hit it at 16 and you had fresh legs and you could bomb that downhill and come around in the grass to the finish line, you could make it.
Mm-hmm.
But this late in the game, I knew he wasn't going to hit this field. I couldn't see him anywhere. He wasn't going to hit the field till probably 17.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
So I knew it was his last lap. I come in, nothing changes, sit down, get my food, do my thing, because I might have been wrong. I might be wrong. Maybe I just didn't see his headlamp back there. Nothing changes. Get up at the 10-second warning. He's nowhere to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Whistle blows. I roll out. What you guys got to see him come in? What was that all about?
Well, I'll just say from my perspective, which was, I guess, completely unique, because I was out there at that, it's a figure 8 course, and I was out there at that middle point, and you came through like any other lap, and I was, just thinking it was like any other lap. And then I looked up the hill, didn't see him either, and I knew that was rare. Didn't see the headlamp. And then, it was a little while, and I was like, man, I got to go back to make sure I'm there when Chad comes through the finish. And then finally, about that time, I saw his headlamp, and I was like, all right, I'll wait, just because I want to see it. And then when he came through, it was funny, early in the race, he said, this isn't even an aerobic challenge. It's just not. My heart rate doesn't even get high. It's just about patience, I guess. And I guess your legs start to get fatigued and everything. And, he's right. It's not an aerobic. It's not super difficult, at that pace. But he was coming down that hill, and boy, it sounded like he was at the end of a 13-minute 5K or something. I mean, just like a freight train coming down, just, big time. And I was just like, well, the way he's breathing and the time that he's coming through here, I think this is it. But, man, I props to Luke, man. He was... I started heading back, and you kind of mirror him on the course when I was heading back, and he starts making all kinds of noises. He was putting out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And man, my respect grew for him in that moment.
Mine too.
He was absolutely still putting out, and I think at that point he knew that was his final lap, but he wasn't laying down.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just let. I think he made a lot of mistakes, right? Like everybody did, other than you, about talking about some of the things that were bothering him and being erratic and whatever, but he didn't just slow down and let that 20 minutes creep up on him. He fought for it. And when I made it back, we sent you sent off and we saw him come in, and that was a cool moment for us that you weren't even a part of when Luke came in. And his day was done, and you were on your victory lap. And he, it was interesting because I had formed all my thoughts and opinions of Luke throughout the day because I had met him for the first time Saturday morning. And, I probably thought differently about him than you did or Blake did or anybody. But, and once again, I had pre-information on him, prior information that he was a great runner. I knew some of the things that he had done. But yeah, it was, I don't know. It was cool to see him talk when he got done with that loop, because he kind of, it didn't go how I expected it to go. It was interesting. I don't know what he had thought of you throughout the day, but you could tell he had an immense amount of respect for you that, quite honestly, may have even shocked him that he had. Mm-hmm. But he
break that down for me, man, because specifically because I wasn't there to see or hear any of
yeah,
that.
I'm struggling to even talk, like, when he got through, you had talked to Luke and made comments to him all day from the beginning of the race, really. And that was, from my perspective, that you knew who Luke was. You knew he wasn't just some random person out there just going to do a few hours.
Yeah.
And he knew who you were, to an extent, and you had your own preconceived notions about each other and everything else, but neither one of you really had respect for the other person yet.
That's right.
You can't really have respect for somebody that you've never met.
Well, especially when your personalities conflict.
Right. On the type of respect I'm talking about, you have to meet somebody and spend some time with them.
Yeah.
And throughout the day, I don't know that you even had developed it for each other yet. You probably got annoyed by his ongoing podcast that he was having, the talk. And I think some of the comments you made to him, he didn't know how to take.
Mm-hmm.
But when he came in at the end of that loop, after pushing, I saw it pushing hard. All that kind of went away.
Mm-hmm. It did.
And he had full respect for you. And his words reflected that. And he said that and talked about it. And then, he kind of was talking to everybody and saying what he was thinking in that moment. And then it was getting about time for you to come in, and he looked at everybody and said, all right, let's back up and give him the floor here. And we did. And then you came in.
Mm-hmm. What about for you, Blake?
Man, to be honest, I don't remember. I don't know if it's because I was just worn out or what, but I didn't really, maybe it was wrong. I just didn't pay a whole lot of attention to any of the other people. Like, when they came through, the only person I really cared about out there was you and when you were running. And, I did go over there and listen, and I'm glad that, because I know Becca and John had said he had talked to them about maybe just going ahead and pulling out, and they convinced him to keep going. So when he came through and he actually just couldn't make the cutoff, I was glad that he decided to push to that point. And, it's interesting hearing your story about how he was feeling coming through there and to know that it was actually genuine and he didn't just make it look like,
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to finish the lap and just quit. I'm just going to kind of drag this out and make it
Oh,
look
yeah.
like.
I mean,
so to know that he struggled there, you know, and actually pushed to that point is good to hear and does give me a, you know, even more respect for him. And what he did out there was, I mean, that's amazing effort that he put in. But, you know, everybody was over there listening and stuff, and they was all coming up and saying, "Oh, good job. You know, y'all did it." And I was like, "No, man. I mean, there is one guy still on the course, but he's still racing the clock."
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, you can't celebrate. I know there was nothing going to stop you from coming in. And, you know, unless you just fell down and broke your leg or something, but it's like there's still something.
He had a lap to complete.
Yeah, there's still something here. Don't congratulate me or anybody on anything because nothing's been done yet, you know? And so that's really where my head was. Once you came through, then I was like, okay, now we can kind of settle down. We can talk about it, congratulate, hug, take pictures, whatever. But I can't really, the thoughts may come to me later about things I saw and heard out there, but I just didn't really pay much attention to anybody else, any of the other runners other than you there. I mean, when I just kind of had my thing that I wanted to do, and that's just all I did. Mm-hmm. I think maybe if I was in a different role out there, I would have really paid more attention to how people were acting and remembered more about their finishing and stuff like that. But that's really all I remember of it.
And we gotta, just to clear something up for anybody who doesn't understand the format of this last man standing race or the rules. If Chad didn't make the 20-minute cutoff on that victory loop, he didn't win.
Yeah, there would have been no winner.
I mean, there would have been no winner. So that was crucial. You know, to come in and treat that like every other loop. So yeah, you couldn't let your guard down when we call it a victory loop. I mean, I think that's the right word for it.
Yeah.
But it's more like the winning loop.
Yeah. Just as important as any other loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, at that point for me, if you didn't finish or you did finish, there was nothing else I could do. But my anticipation for you coming through was paramount to anything else, any other celebration.
Yeah.
Listening to Luke's speech, I mean, not disrespectful to him. I didn't care what he had to say. Like,
yeah.
I was here to do everything I could so that you won the race. And everything we had worked and done for the last 37 hours hinged on that loop, and that's all I cared about.
Yep.
You know, and once you came through, then, you know, if he wanted to give a speech then, I would have listened to it, but I didn't really listen to him. I stood over there, you know, just to be respectful. I wasn't going to stand away, but to be honest, I just didn't really listen to it.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting, too, for me to hear Noah's story about how he came through on that last loop, giving his all, because on the first loop that Luke and I did together, the first loop where it was just me and him left, he said, "Well, it's just me and you." He said, "What do you want to do about this?" And I said, "Well, Luke, to be honest with you, we can sit out here and do this as long as you want to do it, brother." I said, "Because I can't lose this race. So we'll sit out here and do it as long as you want to do it."
Yeah.
And he said, and I heard him say multiple times toward the end, you know, I know Chad's willing to go as far as he has to go to win this, and I don't know if I'm willing to do that. And that's essentially what were you going to say, Noah? That's essentially how he answered me.
No, I'm glad we're calling back to that, because when you asked Becca and John earlier what the pivotal moment of the race was, or the defining moment, that's what it was. The first lap that it was just you and Luke. I think I was holding one of Dwayne's cameras. That's why I heard this. And I wish I wasn't. I wish I hadn't heard this, because I don't like a lot of this filming stuff out there, to be honest with you, because I think it needs to be shared between the people who are actually in the arena. But that's either way.
So you heard that conversation.
Yeah.
So how do you recall it?
So either way, that it is what it is. I was behind them, and to be honest with you, that was one of the weirdest conversations. That was one of the strangest exchanges that I've ever heard on a race course. I mean, in my opinion, Luke looked over at him running about side by side and said, yeah, I mean, Chad's already went through some of it. He said, well, it's just you and me, Chad. What do you want to do about this? And I thought, man alive, what in the world is he talking about? What do you want to do about it? Well, keep going as long as you can go.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you mean, what do you want to do about it? It's almost like he wanted to make an agreement with you, you know? And then you just, I mean, you've already said it.
Well, I mean, how did you hear it, though?
Yeah, well, from what I remember, you looked over at him and said, you know, I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but...
Is that what he said?
What?
A jerk?
Oh, I don't... Memories fade. He probably said butthole or something. I don't remember what he said. But I have to win this race. And Luke, I remember he looked over at you. He was kind of looking forward, and then he just looked over at your face. And then he looked back forward, and he didn't say anything. And it's funny because I've heard people say things like that before, that they have to do something, but I've never taken that serious. Like when people say you have to win this race, no, you don't. I mean, just because you want to real bad don't mean you have to.
Yeah.
I've wanted to win stuff. I mean, so bad before. Don't mean you're gonna. Don't mean you have to. But what that look told me when he gave you was like, yeah, I know you do. I mean, he fully agreed with you. It was full agreement. It was full, I understand what was going to happen. And, you know, a part of me doesn't like that he accepted that in that moment, that you were going to win. But a part of me, since he did accept that, a part of me has a lot of respect that he didn't just fold up right there.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I mean, how I would have handled Chad saying that to me was, all right, you're going to have a long night then. And instead of doing that, Luke accepted that Chad was going to win. But to his credit, he battled out for, good grief,
It was much longer.
10 more hours?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, hats off to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and the way he did respond, and he said, well, I know you're going to do whatever it takes to win this.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be the guy that just gives up.
Yeah.
That's how he responded to it. Yeah.
I don't even remember that. Well, his actions said that, so.
That's exactly what he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
He accepted it, and then he said, well, I don't want to be the guy that just gives up. Yeah. And he didn't. And everybody always asks me, well, on that victory loop, what's going through your head? And that's the hardest loop I ran the whole day, because you do then have the capacity to kind of shift. You know you're going to make this loop, and you have the capacity to kind of shift your mindset into then saying, okay, how can I? What needs to be said at the end of this? We've got this large group of people that have dedicated all this time to stay out here and be a part of this and watch and cheer. And, how do I do this moment justice? So just reflecting on that and kind of putting some thoughts together that you want to share with the group. And then at the same time, you start to feel all the things that are not good with your body.
Yeah.
You start to feel that for the first time. Somebody asked me, said, well, at the end of the race, when I came across the finish line, first thing I did was hug Luke and thank him for the gift that he gave me and for not just giving up. That was a gift to me. He did that for me. We just made the assumption that he knew he wasn't going to win. And right after that, I made the statement that my feet are just macerated. They're just tore all to pieces. My quads had been just, I mean, I don't know what you call it, locking up, or just they hurt so bad. I had something going on with my right hip. Just all kinds of crap. And somebody said, well, and I said, yeah, I had all that going on. You never heard me say a word about any of that, right? And somebody said, well, did you not feel that all that? Like it was obviously there. Why did you all of a sudden feel it on the last loop? And it's all of it was there. It's just I have some ability to just completely block that out mentally, to where it's there, but it's not registering with me.
Yeah. Well,
Unless it's something that I pick up on that function check that I know that I can compensate for. All right. If it's just, if you better expect your quads to freaking be lit up when you've climbed 37,000 feet and descended 37,000 feet. Like it's to be expected.
well, you've talked about that lesson. The lesson in that is don't give your pain a voice, right?
Yeah.
Well, what that question brings you deeper into is, what's the precursor to giving your pain a voice? You can't give a voice to your pain. You can't do that unless you've given it attention and you've given it energy.
Yep.
That's completely different than a function check. You're doing that function check, going through everything that you can fix and you can get ahead of. But once something has happened, like he talked about his feet and quads and everything, quit giving that crap attention in your mind. It's taking up residence in your mind. And it's got to do that before you even give it a voice.
Yep.
So stop it. Stop. Don't just not give it a voice. Don't give it any attention like that. Don't focus on what's going wrong that you can't change.
Exactly. And that's how I block it out mentally. Yeah. But on that last loop, you start to feel all that because you can kind of somewhat let your guard down. Yeah. And it's interesting. I talked to Scott Worthington yesterday, and he said, it was wild, man. You looked so strong. And then you came in off of that victory loop, and he said, you looked a little shaky on your feet. And he said, that just is a testament to how powerful the mind is.
That's right.
I mean, it's just unbelievable to when you let that, kind of let that go, and then all of a sudden you're a little shaky on your feet. Whereas the loop prior to that, I was fully invested in going. However, I felt like I could easily make it to 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't, but I can't even put a number on it because I felt like I could run indefinitely.
Yeah.
Yep. Until that very moment when you're like, it's over, relief. And then you can, you start to look a little shaky.
Uh-huh.
And Blake, you had a similar experience to that, didn't you? Walk us through that.
What, at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, on a much smaller level, but it's one lesson that I've learned, that I've recognized already just from, listen, don't think I'm blowing up what I did. The only thing I did was stay up for a really long time and put some food out. But really long time for me. Longest time I've ever stayed up. But, I think it comes down to the commitment, how committed you are to what you're doing and staying locked in, because that whole time, I don't know, I was probably up, if the race went on for 38 hours, you had 3 intermissions, that's 30, I was probably up 42, 43, whatever, over 40 hours, but the whole time, I could have laid down and went to sleep, but like the desire to oh gosh, man, I'm dozing off over. I never got that way, and I think it was because I was committed to doing what I had to do, and I think it's the same thing for you. Like, you didn't feel those things, you knew they were there, but you kind of mentally blocked them out because you were committed to winning that race, and it didn't matter that any of that stuff was going on. It's similar to like when you have adrenaline, like when you get an adrenaline burst and you don't really feel any of that. To me, it's kind of similar to that without the heightened all the senses being heightened and stuff. It's just like you got one thing you're focused on, and I mean, I don't know how to tell people to get there. But anyways, so whatever, I stay up and do all that. Chad comes in on his last loop, and for me, that was like job done. Like when he crossed the finish line, the key to the ignition went like that, and everything got turned down. I got stuff loaded up, and we hadn't really talked about what we were going to do when the race was over, where we were going to go or stay or whatever. So we briefly discussed it, and Chad said something about a hotel, and then he goes and apparently gives an interview that lasted about an hour. I thought it was about 2 or 3 minutes, but he goes over and gives an interview, and I sit down and I start thinking, I thought, the last thing I want to do is keep on dragging this out and go to a hotel, and then tomorrow get up and then go get breakfast, and it prolongs everything. I mean, I wanted to get home and see the kids now that everything was done. So Mom's like, well, I feel fine. I can drive home. I said, okay, well, that's fine. So we get in the car, and we hadn't really told Chad about the decision. And I go down and do some stuff in the Suburban, and I lay down in the seat, and I guess I did fall asleep because I thought Chad's interview was about 2 minutes long. I was like, they come open up the door, and I was like, dang, man, it's faster than I thought it was going to be. And I get in the back seat, and Chad starts talking about something. We hadn't told him where we're going, and he's like, he uses these big words. I don't know what they were. He was like, I'm perturbed and blown away that you guys are about to try to drive home. I'm shutting this down. And and he says something else, and I mean, I'm just worn out, and it kind of ticks me off. And I said, well, I trusted that Mom was an adult and she could make the decision and tell me whether she's tired or not to drive home. So that's what we're freaking going to do. And, whatever. We just kind of went to the hotel room and did our thing. Everything, and, was fine, after that. But the lesson I learned is that, like, that once you shut that off, once you shut off your commitment and your responsibility to things, when you're that deep into it, there's no coming back. Like, I couldn't have turned it back on and said, I'm focusing back in. And it's kind of like what we were talking about Crew and Chad, where when he left out, we would kind of start talking and cutting up. And when you get so deep into something, the very second that you decide, all right, job done, let's call it off. The first thing I learned is that once you call it off, you can't call it back on.
That's right.
And that's why all these patience, present, deliberate, and function check, now I realize all that stuff are only tools to keep you locked on longer. The key to everything, it's like all patience, present, deliverance, all right here, and it keeps you from this line. This is the key, on or off. And it keeps you from turning that key to off, because eventually you'll get there, and it's a hard switch. It's just a split second, but once it's done, it's done. You cannot change it. You can't go back and forth with it. And the other thing I learned is I shut down too early. You got to stay locked on till you're in the bed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a lesson learned. Like, my job there was to take care of Chad and do all of that stuff, but part of that meant also getting him to the room and getting him what he needed through the end. I messed up on that part, but it's just a lesson learned, Chad told me in the truck, he said, man, you freaking nailed it on the crewing, but you're doing an absolute terrible job right now. I think that's when he ticked me off, and I popped back off something at him, and mom was over there trying to be the referee, and but that is one of the biggest lessons that I, just on my half, that I just kind of learned about me, and that I recognize now that I take out of it. So, beyond the win and all that stuff, I mean, that's most important, but I always try to be conscious of when I'm doing stuff, what can I learn about myself and how can I get better? And that's definitely one thing. I mean, I just don't stay up late. I don't stay up long for many things. So I'd never stayed up that long. And
Yeah.
PN told me I done messed up now. He knows how long I can stay up for the basic courses. But yeah, I mean that was what I experienced there at the end. You know, and I mean to me it was just so interesting at how hard that shift is. And I mean you would think like, oh crap, I shouldn't have turned that off. Let me get back focused again. But it doesn't. Your body is not going to do it. It's not. Once I sit down in that RV, son, Chad said I look like a fish out of water that you lay on the dock, and every now and then you'll see it kind of flop, like it's got a little bit of life left in it, but it's
twitching.
It's gone. But I mean, it's like the nerve endings moving or something.
That was Blake.
When you cut the head off the snake and it's still over there every now and then trying to strike.
Gosh.
But yeah, that was pretty comical there in the end. I had to go apologize to Chad the next morning for sassing him, but
It's funny now.
yeah, it's funny now.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Wasn't funny then.
No,
Well, that's a very valuable lesson, and I knew what was going on there. I knew that you had flipped that switch off, and I've done it hundreds of times, so I knew what you were going through, and that you had turned it off too early.
yeah,
And it's a super valuable lesson, but you see the consequences of that
yeah,
is, for me, when you do flip that switch off, you stop going through those processes of operational risk management.
yeah,
And, that decision that you guys had made to allow Mom to drive back home that night.
it's a terrible decision.
Yeah, the reason that I didn't allow that to happen was simply ORM. It wasn't because I couldn't lay down. I could have laid down in the back of the Suburban and said, well, y'all just do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've raced and I'm done. But I hadn't flipped my switch off yet because I knew I couldn't do that until I crawled under the sheets in the hotel room filled with bugs. And so that's the reason I said, no, you are not driving this rig 4 hours back home at freaking 2:00 in the morning. We wouldn't get home till sunrise, and you've been intermittently sleeping for the last 3 days.
Yeah,
Like, no, that puts our lives at risk. And that's the reason we shifted that plan. And Blake got us into a hotel. He got us 2 rooms for $80.
Listen, we went to
Two
this
rooms.
one. This one was, I don't know what it was called. I walked in there, really nice hotel, and nobody was at the desk, and I was so freaking ticked. I was walking around there looking for somebody. I was hollering back there. Nobody was coming. If someone would, it's probably good they didn't come up there. I was so mad I probably busted their coronavirus glass off or something. But so yeah, we go to the Chad's like, well, there's one right here. We get it booked, and he says, I said,
Hotel 6.
I don't know what it was. I don't even remember. I said, we need 2 rooms, and he tells me it'd be $80. And I said, no, we need 2 rooms. And he's like, yeah, $80 after taxes. And I was like, well, all right. We get up there. Chad's room smells like cigarettes. Got burns in the seats and bugs all in his sheets.
It's literally filled with these black beetles. They were all over the walls. They were all in the sheets.
Look, it's like John Coffey opened up the door and breathed his old fly breath into the room and then closed the door up.
It was rough. Son.
Ours wasn't quite as bad. I walked in there and seen Chad's, and I said, all right, man, you good? Yeah, he said, well, you staying with Mama? In the back of my mind, I was thinking, maybe hers a little better than this. I thought, serves you well, you old cocksack. No, I'm glad, obviously, that he had the experience to, keep going, because I mean, that was just the first time I had done it, and lesson well learned. You don't shut off yourself until you under the covers.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, so that wrapped it up, man. We got up the next morning, went and ate a little biscuit love.
Yeah.
And everybody asked about recovery. I'm on the same recovery program that Chili's on. You just chill, eat some decent food, and let your body do its own thing.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, y'all out there with your Normatec boots on, your daggone powders and dust and creams and CBD and all. That's all a freaking scam, dude. It's all a scam.
Yeah.
These people have made billions of dollars off of scamming you to think that there's something that you can do to help your body recover faster and better. No. Just leave it alone. Yep. Kick your feet up, eat some decent food, and relax.
Yep. And one part of that, too, a good reason to not, is you become reliant on that stuff and your body don't know how to do it on its own. That ain't no good. I mean, your body is designed, God literally designed our bodies to when we accrue damage, it can fix itself.
Yeah.
I mean, don't try to speed that process up with stuff that you're going to have to feel like you rely on to ever recover. I mean, you can do what you want to do. I just don't, all that stuff is, it kind of gets your body in a place where it doesn't know how to do it by itself anymore. And it has that amazing ability anyway. So
yeah, that's the recovery program I'm on. And I feel good today. I mean, I'm probably going to go do a little mountain bike today.
You seem good.
Yeah.
Well, Chili didn't say all that, but I couldn't get him off that darn sparkling unicorn tier THC water he was drinking out
Were
there.
you hitting on that, son?
Son, he was hitting them unicorn tears hard.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Man, that was a sponsor out there, that Mad Tasty. And people tried to get me to drink that from minute one, and no. About 30 hours in, oh yeah.
Was it good?
He was double fisting them unicorn tears, son. He was making hard pulls on them.
Was it good?
It was all right. I mean, I'd honestly, I just like regular water. It's like sparkling water, isn't it? With CBD in it or something.
THC.
I can't believe you did that. I didn't know you did drugs.
He likes unicorn tears.
Oh, come on, man. Caffeine's a drug.
All right, Chili. That explains a lot about you.
He got some red eye love from it. Well, if y'all are lucky, I'll put Chili's duck face as the thumbnail on YouTube for this episode. Chili made a good duck face out there.
Please don't.
On the course. So.
No, I think it should be some of those at the end when Chad came through. If y'all want to see, if you didn't catch that, what Chad had to say at the end, I think y'all put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, after all that Chad had done, he finished that loop and embraced Luke and then pointed every bit of glory back to God. And I'm really proud to know a guy who has the humility and faith to do that. And it was pretty cool to watch. The finish line, when you win a race, all eyes are on you. It's kind of a unique moment. I mean, honestly, Chad, people are gravitating towards him anyway, but when you win a race, that's just the way it is. And you can make that moment about you real easy.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't do that.
Yep.
So just want to say I was proud of that, and y'all can catch that on YouTube.
You got anything else, Blake?
Nope. I believe I've hit my word limit. I said all I can.
Joker hit his word limit, son. Well, that's a pretty good recap of the Mid-State Mile. I'm sure as we process through it all in our own heads, like Blake said, we'll be a little more articulate of the specific lessons that you guys can take from this. This was kind of just more of an opportunity to tell the story and not dig so much into the principle type things that got us through it. Again, if you're interested in ultra running, if you're interested in increasing your ability, come join us at the Proving Grounds, man. Yep. Go on the website, sign up. Submit your application for the basic course. Join us on Patreon. Connect with us on a deeper level. We love the podcast, but this is just the surface of what we do.
Yeah.
This is the very entry. Listening to this podcast is the very entry level of what we can give to you.
Yeah.
All right. Everything else requires more resources. So, everybody, you guys, like we had Aaron on earlier. We've had John out to the proving grounds. Big John's actually coming on the basic course. You guys are, along with God, you guys are the ones that keep 307 Project alive and allow it to function and operate the way it does. So when you guys sign up and come out and get what you can, get what we have to give to you, you're not only hopefully walking away with some really good skills, tactics, techniques, and procedures to utilize in your own life, but you're also supporting 307 Project and everything that it is and all the people that belong to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we hope to see you guys out there at one of the events, and we'll go ahead and further deconstruct this thing and take more lessons from it as we process it in our own minds. Thank you guys for tuning in. I enjoyed it. It was an endurance episode, but we'll be back to regularly scheduled programs after this, and it was good.
Good deal.
2 over the word count.
Thought it was good.
Got anything else, Blake?
That's good.
All right, love you guys. Enough said.